He was so confused. He doesn't understand even until today. And then I have another god brother who goes, I don't understand why they are doing that. I just know it's wrong. That's good enough for me. He's still completely active in Krishna consciousness. No, you don't understand why. Then I have another god brother who said, well, the more we really understand what they are doing, well, that's the proof we are in Maya. It's even more radical. When you really understand this kami, how he is performing the sinful activity, and you understand there's a reason for it why he's doing this. Look, I mean, everybody has to do something. So look, then you're already there. You join the similar type of consciousness. So there's nothing. Prabhupada was very, very firm on this point. But what actually I wanted to start with is to demonstrate how Prabhupada in the early days, this is excerpt from a letter from the very early days, how he was actually, where the relationship to Prabhupada started. You will be amazed. It was not even on the level of guru and disciple. It went beyond that. Because a guru doesn't write a letter to a disciple of following nature. Just listen. This is written to Mukunda, Prabhu, who became later on Mukunda Maharaj, and that's in the very early days. It's 1900, what is this? 1969. It's very interesting. This is coming in connection with Prabhupada is actually asking his devotees to give money. His first followers. Give money. For very clear purpose, he wants to print 5,000 copies of Back to Godhead. So he's collecting for it. Not from the karmas. He's collecting for it from his first followers. And in context with that, he is explaining why he, first of all, everybody understands immediately, he's not asking the money for himself really, it's for the mission he's carrying. So he writes, this program must be executed. That word executed, Prabhupada used quite often actually. The mission must be executed. Chant Hare Krishna, fix yourself up and execute Krishna consciousness. It's a little bit like a military term, So that's actually because it's based on a discipline. Discipline means you execute, regardless of your mental or physical well-being. You simply execute. I'm just claiming this contribution as your pet child. Now this is really something. Prabhupada is declaring himself to be the child of his disciples. Very, very intimate exchange. You guys, my father was very much affectionate, and in my childhood, whatever I wanted from my father, he would at once give to me. One time he purchased for me one rifle, actually one of these plastic guns. And so, after taking it, I demanded that he must give me another. My father denied, you have already one. Why do you ask me for another? So my argument was that I must have two rifles, one for each hand, because I have two hands. Due to my obstinacy, my father finally agreed. Later on, when I was young and lost my father, I was very sorry to have lost such an affectionate father. But by Krishna's grace, I have now many American fathers and mothers. So I am appealing to all my American fathers and mothers to help me by this contribution. Please let me know if you will do this. I am waiting for your early reply. I hope this meets you in good health. So this is going along the line where Prabhupada said actually the mood of our mission, you could call it our religion, whatever you call it, is in the same way. We don't ask, we don't join God or surrender to Him to get something from Him. We actually join God to give something to Him. This is a very essential difference between the Christian line or any kind of religious line where people always want something from God. No, the bhakti path is that you actually are trained to give to God, not just give me, give me, give me. In a similar way, Prabhupada here, by this wonderful exchange, is installing himself in the hearts of the disciples, as the one who actually should not be asked, for benefits. People worship gurus like that. In India, it's very common. You worship this guru, he will give you the shakti to get more money. And there's even gurus who advocate and advertise themselves. You worship me, I will teach you how to make more money. I will give you the power, I will give you the blessing. Look at me, I'm so rich. There's gurus really like that. They get garlands in India, it's pathetic. They give garlands to such gurus made from money. Not flowers, it's just money bills, These pictures. Prabhupada actually got such a garland too. He didn't mind. Okay. But that's not the purpose to worship a guru, to become even a better materialist. So this wonderful exchange demonstrates that Prabhupada puts himself at the mercy of his disciples for the sake of the mission. That's the mood of the preacher. Preacher is not somebody who comes around the corner and says, sit down, I'm preaching here, come on, get my mercy, give the money. This kind of abusive preaching style is the privilege of Kanishta Radhikars. This kind of, I'm here without my mercy, no chance, come on, give. This kind of abusive style of that you automatically consider yourself being far superior to the others. As a matter of fact, without you, they have no chance in spiritual life. This is church. In church they did that. Hundreds of years of church with this pounding down on the little illiterate farmers, There's God in heaven, He will punish you. But you have a chance. Give a donation to me. This kind of style. Therefore atheism is so rampant. Because Prabhupada said people grow up. Today people are far more educated. At least they know how to read and write. And they know how to communicate. They still don't know much, but they have these tools. So they are not so easy to be, intimidated by something. They are very fond of arguing, actually, especially in the West. You cannot scare them. In more simple countries you can do that. Just intimidate them. But this is not our preaching. Preaching is not intimidating. Preaching means actually that you conquer people's heart by humility. Of course, Prabhupada said when you deal with very, very foolish people, you have to even apply force. That's the reason why he advocated the presence of Kshatriyas. And he advocated actually violence. He said, actually, in the real world we are living in, if you consider the history of religion, whoever studies this, practically all the major religions were spread by violence. Even Buddhism. Which is that, why? Not that the Buddhists were going around killing everybody, but King Ashok, he was the king, he became a Buddhist. And that's it. It's violence. Hey, the king is Buddhist. Okay. Well, what about if I'm not Buddhist? Well, then you have basically not much place in this kingdom, Get lost. This is not very subtle. Actually, it's institutionalized, it's established, finished. No discussion. No, do you want to be Buddhist? No, nothing. The king is Buddhist, that's it. It's a state religion. Finished. It's not even a religion. It's just So when you look in details, whatever was established in this material world basically was done by violence, including Kurukshetra. And what a violence that was. Now, that's not that we are advocating terrorism, not at all. It's the most barbarian, of violence. Put some bomb in some marketplace and blow up children and women. It's great. It's absolutely unacceptable from Vedic point of view. Absolutely, these anonymous bomb installations, it's completely unacceptable. No. Prabhupada said the most ideal form of violence in the Vedic times is that two kings meet each other on the battlefield with the armies. And ultimately the armies become spectators. They just don't fight. The kings fight. You are the leader, go out. And they fight to the death. That means one walks, the other one doesn't. And whoever wins, well, that's his armies, And then the soldiers, which were, on the side of that king who is dead, they go, the king is dead, long live the new king. And then they just, connect with the other armies. That's the end of the battle. No children, no women, no civilians, nothing, just professional soldiers. And they don't even fight. It's just the king. Today warfare is just, the leaders sit in a bunker, and push some buttons and the rockets are flying here and there. And smash a whole town with everybody in it. Couldn't be more barbarian. As some terrorists argue, I go out there, I put one bomb, it kills 20 people. The President of the United States of America is having billions of bombs and blowing everybody everywhere. So who is the bigger terrorist? Tell me. Simply numbers, Oh, he is right and I'm wrong. Well, who said so? Whose cause is better in a material life? It's all wrong. So Prabhupada started this movement on a very, very personal platform. It was so personal that there was always the concern and the question was raised, even from the newspaper reporters. What happened to the Hare Krishna movement when Prabhupada was over here? It's a very relevant question. See, we predicted in the Shastra that such an acharya of such a size is departing from the planet. Usually chaos follows. But Prabhupada did any arrangements so it doesn't. He is one of the... I wouldn't like to make the ultimate statement on this one, but he's practically the only acharya or in Sampradaya who left an organization behind. An organization means a structure. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj didn't do that. I mean, he left an organization behind. He gave some idea like the GBC, but he knew it's not going to work. Therefore, he left quite disappointed. Bhaktivinoda Thakur didn't start any movement. He was just writing books. Gaurkishore Babaji didn't start any movement. The six Goswamis didn't start any organized movement. They were establishing temples in holy places. So the point is that, that Prabhupada did something very unique. He left actually a structure, so organized attempt to spread Krishna consciousness can go on. That structure is not material. It's spiritual because it's meant entirely for a spiritual purpose. That's something very little discussed today. Nowadays it's all about you and Krishna and Radha and how do you feel about it, and chant and feel and chant, and you taste, the name and Krishna, you taste it, and you taste and you chant, and it's your spiritual life. No organization. It's very little preached. So therefore our preaching effect sometimes is very little. Because we cannot offer people some structure or something they can actually go in. Most of the people are Shudras. They have to be managed. They are attracted by organized attempt. That's the reason why they take shelter in the material society. Because there is a structure. However chaotic it is, but there's seemingly a structure. Okay? You work that many years, then you get this and this benefit, then you get your pension, and then, and people take shelter in that. Even they actually hate the nature of the work they do. Nobody actually, very few people say, I love what I'm doing, I would like to do it forever. They are all like, well, my job. There are the benefits. Okay? You can ask devotees like Manidhara Prabhu, devotees who were really working for long periods of time. There were benefits to it too. There was something. Like you don't fire people from one minute to another. Just, he's working, trying hard, then he gets some difficulties, like physical difficulties. That's taken care of in a material society. That is, you go to the doctor, you get a paper, he has this physical difficulty. You go to the work, they have to pay for you. They cannot fire you just like that. I don't want to draw now a comparison to ISKCON, but sorry. Better you stay healthy, wealthy, and powerful, and run around, not married forever. Then you have a good chance. Outside of that, no, but in Prabhupada's, they can extract from this letter like example. It's very personal. It emanates the image of the family. It's like an old man, Prabhupada had so genuinely knew how to conquer the hearts of devotees by using even his age, undoubtedly, and putting himself in a position of an old man who needs care and help. Give me money for printing. I have this little problem. Prabhupada didn't spoke, I have a problem, my teeth are falling out, I need money to go to the dentist. It's not stated in this letter. He wrote, I'm an old man, I cannot do much, but I still have to print this 5,000 back to Godheads. Would you help me? And who couldn't? Devotees were cutting themselves to pieces to help Prabhupada. They had no idea about ISKCON, not at this point really. They had no idea how big this movement will grow. But they knew Prabhupada is old, he has so many things to do, and he cannot do it. So let's help him. And that's how Prabhupada engaged. And while doing so, they became automatically part of the mission. And while becoming part of the mission, they became the mission. This is not a movement to hang on for material purposes. I see still people coming around since 40 years who come around this movement. They get very angry that they don't get the support to use this movement for their material ideas. They get very angry, especially when they find some management which opposes idea. They get very upset. No, sorry. This is not the nature of this movement. For this, you can join, there's other movements for that. You can join, some investment movement. You invest a little bit and you expect some return with some profit. This idea is not there in Krishna consciousness. Oh yeah, I surrender a little bit and then I get return with profit. Very nice. Wrong movement, wrong place. There were some people get so angry, this Krishna consciousness doesn't work. I'm not happy because I don't get what I want. It's getting even worse. I cannot do what I want. Oh, that's really upsetting. Well, this is just the early days of Prabhupada's preaching. But as devotees extended that faith, and really the bond was there, and Prabhupada introduced something which was of a different nature, as being just a father, declaring his disciples to be his fathers and mothers. Prabhupada started to exercise authority. No, you cannot do this. No, it should be done like this. No. And I tell you, it was heavy. Some devotees didn't got the switch. Don't think that everybody was following Prabhupada unconditionally. They didn't got the switch. The Prabhupada was more and more exercising the authority. For those who were serious and really start to get empowered, well, they got the feeling of being under authority. And they also got the realization, it's very nice. They got ecstatic. They wanted more authority. Because the result of this was such an inner satisfaction and such a feeling of security. Just imagine, you don't have to speculate the whole day what to do. You just do what you are told, and with a good conscience. Prabhupada didn't like blind following. He didn't like, blind following. But he explained why we should follow, and when we follow, to the degree we followed, to the degree devotees became ecstatic. No worries. Kamis and those who speculate, it's a tough job. First you have to invent an idea, and then you have to protect the idea from others because they have their own ideas. And they will question your idea. It's very hard to speculate. And they go, well, that's your idea. And they're right, because it's your idea. And you go, well, I don't believe your idea either. And then you end up with nothing. But when you represent the idea of a pure devotee, that means Krishna's idea, then you will experience such a feeling of security. And when you come more and more in tune with Krishna's desire, then all auspiciousness is there. That's what the end of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is giving that choice to Arjuna. Yes? Did you hear? Yes. Do you understand? Yes. So are you going to do it or not? It's your choice. If you do, victory is yours, I promise. If you don't, sorry, you will be lost. But the choice is yours. Of course, Arjuna by that time was so enlightened that he immediately did the right choice. No? But that situation is for us every day. So this letter demonstrates wonderfully how Prabhupada brought the affection from his disciples by putting himself exactly into their care. There's lectures, there's like a Vyasa Puja lecture from Srila Prabhupada on the day of his appearance, where he's just with such a gratitude thanking his disciples. He said, what will I do without you? And says, now, each single disciple at that time knew that it's exactly opposite. Not what Prabhupada would do without us, what will we do without Prabhupada? That's the real question. So, but the exchange was so loving in that regard, truly loving, not this lovey-dovey hodgepodge what we hear today all the time. Really loving because it was actually in a frame of that mission. We are doing something together to please Krishna. So this is only a devotee of this magnitude and this kind of purity can achieve such a result. From a completely obstinate, atheistic, disorganized, chaotic, intoxicated people to create a movement of a disciplined, organized, loving disciples. This is an achievement which nobody managed so far. And then we get things done. Prabhupada said, if you would listen what I said, you could take the whole world in 18 days. They would say, oh wow, what a great statement. But he meant it. Actually what he says, you cannot follow, that's your problem. You see, you don't get it. And because Prabhupada, from few meetings with his spiritual master, got the essence and followed him completely in a very determined way, disciplined, not changing one word, not changing one word from the Shastra, nothing. So the result came. Generated from relatively very little association here with the spiritual master. So this is the example, and this is something we can learn from. Do you have some questions? Or you want something more?
I want to ask something.
Yeah? You forgot.
We can say that this system of authority that's also demonstrated in the current society, like there's rules, permits we have to deal with and all that.
Good.
So the thing is that you see Prabhupada in one sense didn't seem to pay very much attention to the formalities of the secular world as such.
But I mean how we deal with the material world, like that.
Yeah, in one sense he was very, well in one sense he was a bit transcendental. Let's say we cannot afford And in the beginning, you can say the movement was very revolutionary. We didn't ask many permits, I guess. It was just go out and do
No,
it.
but he was in a very early stage already upset about it. Actually, the same letter I was reading now, that's on another line. He writes to Mukunda, just listen to that. It's nice you mention it because it's just right away here. Before he comes to this issue that he describes, I'm like you, you are like my father, you are so nice at taking care of me. He writes to Mukunda, I think you have got now license for kirtan on the street, so you can follow the same principle. That means already, this is 1969, Prabhupada didn't say just jump on the street and do whatever you want. There's a license for kirtan, he mentioned. But when that license was denied, Prabhupada said, we don't need any permit from authorities to be happy. And he did it. And it came like the chanting, he did it. Australia was an example where devotees were on an early stage instantly locked in as soon as they appeared on Harinam. Prabhupada said, that's where the line is drawn. We are going to chant even in jail. We are going to chant outside of the jail. Nobody will stop us. And Prabhupada traveled around the world and he mentioned it. Australians sing all the time. He said, all my disciples in Australia are sitting in jail. And I told them, keep on chanting. That was, could feel the Gandhi, Gandhi thing, yeah. British said, there will be no Gandhi in India. And there was millions of people in the street just marching. Gandhiji, Gandhiji. Prabhupada reflected the same spirit in a spiritual way. You can lock us all up. You let us out, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. No stop. Prabhupada was absolutely determined. And what happened in Australia, that the determination of the devotees was so impressive that the Australian church threatened to make a big case against the government if they don't let the devotees go out of the jail. Which was very rare. Normally the church is our opponent, not our supporter. But there was one prominent Australian bishop. He said, these people are religious. You cannot lock them in like this. Prabhupada thanked him personally very much for the support. And after a relatively brief period, devotees were back on the street. So there was no policy on this point. But why should we do such a violent approach if nobody is threatening us so much? Why? That's what Jesus meant in the Bible when he said, you give to the emperor what's emperor's. Then continue with your spiritual life. So, you try to comply. But when it comes to the mode of oppression, we will try to finish you off. We will surround you with so many conditions you will be finished. No. That's where the power of this movement really is. Shoot us, kill us, we are anyway going to chant. Like now, the policy, was felt due to our intense presence. So the vegetarian Saturday and the Harinams, everything in the streets of Copenhagen. Now the policy is felt that it's a little bit too much of Hare Krishna. And because everybody in the West, and specifically Denmark, is possessed by the idea of equalitarianism, we have to be all the same. So they cannot be just Hare Krishnas. They are the disabled ones, and they are the homosexuals, and they are these, and they are that, and the foreigners, and these, and they are all the same. Damn it! So come on, be also in the streets of Copenhagen. Okay, condition. Who else is crazy? Come on, come on, come on. That's a habit thing to say.